On behalf of BASF, welcome and thank you for attending today's webinar on BASF catalysts for the production of oxo alcohols. My name is Matthias Kern. I'm the Global Marketing Manager for Nickel Catalysts, and with me today is Bert Sandy, our Technology Manager for EMEA, Middle East and Africa. I will start the webinar with a brief introduction of our team and the oxo alcohol value chain, before I then hand over to Bert Sandy, who will guide you through the technical part of the webinar and show you the benefits of our portfolio by some showcases, which should give you an impression how you can profit from the performance of our offerings. BASF Catalysts is a global organization, and as a global organization, we also have a global team. You see here positioned in Europe, myself being globally responsible for the commercial part of the portfolio, and Bert Sandy, the technology manager, who's with me, which can support you in for your plants, since he's in your time zone and also close to your plant. We have the same setup for the Americas region, where we have Radu Equation, who's responsible for the copper catalyst from the technical side, and Jacob Lee and Robert Blando, who both will be responsible and support you for nickel catalyst questions. In Asia Pacific, we have Mario Soholz, the Global Marketing Manager for the copper portfolio, and Hai Tao Feng and Nan Chen, who are responsible for the technical part in Asia Pacific and Greater China. What you don't see on that slide, but is also, of course, supporting our team in the background, is our R&D team, which also has facilities in all regions and can support you with your specific questions regarding your feedstocks or your technology. So what are oxo alcohols? Oxo alcohols are alcohols based on the hydroformylation of olefins. The basic oxo alcohols, C4, so isobutanol and N-butanol, as well as 2-hexylhexanol, have the highest commercial relevance under the oxo alcohols. And the market is mainly driven by plasticizer and solvents. For the higher oxo alcohols, also detergents and dispersions are important applications. Oxo alcohols have quite a substantial capacity worldwide, which is estimated to 90 megatons. And in 2021, it is forecasted that 14.8 megatons of the capacity is used, so a slight recovery compared to the highly by COVID-19 affected 2020. And the growth rate is also assumed with 3.3% annual growth by IHS. And it's common for those bulk chemicals with such large capacities, a small improvement in your process can make a big difference in your profitability. The synthesis itself starts with the purification of the feedstock, and also here BASF has offerings, but those are not part of today's webinar. But if you have any questions on our purification portfolio, please reach out to us anytime. After purification, as I mentioned, the olefin is hydroformylated to the aldehyde, so the basic aldehyde C4 and C5, butanol and aldehyde, which then can be synthesized to the higher oxo alcohols by aldol addition. And the final step in the process chain is then the hydrogenation of the aldehyde to the respective alcohol. The hydroformylation, the first step, is usually synthesized or catalyzed using either a cobalt or rhodium catalyst, and this can significantly influence the choice of your hydrogenation catalyst, which can be either nickel or copper, and also if you require a polishing step or not. And we have in our portfolio, and that's why we call this webinar the one-stop shop, offerings for all of those technologies, which Bert Sandy will now introduce on the next slide. Oh, sorry, one more. Yeah, I mentioned before that R&D is quite a very important part of our success. And we are continuously innovating our products, which of course also will be later a topic for the showcases. And there are main topics right now which are influencing our decisions, so the strategic decisions on what we are currently focusing our R&D on. For copper, for instance, the co-hydrogenation is usually done using copper-chrome catalysts, and chromin-6 especially is more and more stringently regulated due to its EHS issues. We are working on chrome-free alternatives to avoid the high cost for investments which are required for EHS measures will increase the cost for our products or the price for you as our customers. So we have chrome-free alternatives, which Bert will later introduce. Another important factor is that currently metal prices are significantly surging. If you compare the metal prices in average January to August last year compared to this year, then copper, for instance, did increase by 60% and nickel also by almost 40%. To counter this effect, we are working continuously on reduced metal content catalysts, which then of course also can be offered to you at lower prices and will mitigate the risk of continuously increasing metal costs. And also that will now be part of the showcases on the coming slides. And with that, I hand over to Bert to introduce you into our portfolio.
The topic of the webinar today is so mainly focused on oxoaldehyde hydrogenation. If you look in the market, what available technologies are there for that, then there is quite a wide range. The majority of these technologies are based on liquid phase trickle bed, fixed bed systems, but there's actually also a gas phase technology available, particularly via Davy, which is suitable for C4C8 aldehyde hydrogenation. Our offering for that technology is copper 0865, and I will tell you more about that in our first showcase. Now, looking at the available liquid phase technologies, your selection, proper technology is often connected to the details in the type of feed that you want to hydrogenate there. If you have, for instance, a very high purity C4C8 feed, typically connected to rhodium-based hydroformylation process, then you're best off going for a nickel trickle bed phase, for instance, offering to the market by Mitsubishi. I present our offerings for this technology in the second showcase. And then there's additionally also copper and copper chrome based liquid trickle phase technologies, Davy and Kuhlmann. Davy is offering it for the full range of aldehydes. Kuhlmann is more for the higher aldehydes. We have offerings for that market, but unfortunately, there is no time to also present that today. But if you have inquiries on that topic, please feel free to contact either Matthias or myself. On top of that, I would like to mention that in most cases, when copper is used as the core aldehyde hydrogenation catalyst, then you still require a carbonyl polisher, which is often, in most cases, a nickel catalyst. We have offerings for that as well, even come with a new product here in introduction, but also that will not be part of the scope of this webinar. But again, please send your inquiries after the call to ourselves, and we'll be happy to address them. So let's dive into the showcases. The first one will be on gas phase hydrogenation and our 0865 tablet that we're offering there. And we would like to show benchmarking versus a very well-known competitor tablet. And what you can immediately see is that our product is produced at a lower density. So if you translate that to packing density, then it will be only 70% versus that competitor catalyst, which means that it can bring you cost of fill advantage of approximately 30%. And yeah, so we added a picture here just to show how this product looks like. Our showcase today is about the hydrogenation of 2-ethylhexanol to 2-ethylhexanol, which is abbreviated as 2EH in the rest of the presentation. And these are the testing conditions. So we've been varying the space velocity. We're working, we're testing at a pressure of 5 bar to keep everything in the gas phase. And we've been scanning at temperature rates in the range of 135 and 220 degrees C, whilst the hotspot is assumed to be around 165 degrees. And we've used commercial crude 2-ethylhexanol for this test, which is close to 96.5% purity. We started, and I will start on the left-hand side here of this slide. Started looking at what would be the conversion of our catalyst versus that of the competition as a benchmark at the hotspot temperature of 165 degrees upon varying the flow. And what you can actually see in that range between 0.2 and 8 WHSV is that grosso modo, the BASF catalyst is around about 5% higher in conversion, and having it at that lower bulk density. So this is a nice first result. And then we also looked at the impact of the temperature to have an idea on the operating window. And what you can see immediately in the middle graph here is that in the red line is that going to lower temperatures to even below 155 degrees. The 0865 remains to be at a much higher conversion compared to our benchmarking competitive catalyst. And also when focusing on the byproducts throughout this operating window, you can see that there are less side products being formed in the category of high boilers, which is also quantified to a level of approximately 5%. So taking these two together, it means that we have a nice large operating window throughout which there was always less side products being formed compared to the benchmark. In addition, we also have testing data on butanol and 2-propyl heptanol, but that is beyond the scope today. So we are proudly presenting here our first commercial reference since 2017. There are more since then, but this one here we are also allowed to share significant process data. We'll go into much detail today in the presentation. But just to mention here is that this is operating quite well since the summer of 2017 at a 99.9% conversion rate of 2EH. The size of the reactor is three tubular reactors, each containing 24 metric tons of our product. Just to wrap this up, so the 0865 offers a couple of unique advantages over the well-known benchmark catalyst. First off, it's a catalyst that is produced at higher conversions and at the same time produces less side products, which has two monetary benefits for you. So we've done some estimates on a 100 kiloton 2EH plant per year, and on both aspects you can actually win around about $3.5 million per year on cost savings materials and on decrease of throughput. Beyond that, we have good evidence here that it can be operated at a broader operating window, which has a very good effect on lengthening of your cycle life catalyst. And as we started to mention, all of this can be done at a lower cost of fill advantage of around about 30%. Shifting gear now to the liquid phase hydrogenation, where we give you a glance of the performance of our nickel catalyst. So mainly this is a Mitsubishi process, and our workhorse catalyst there is the nickel 3354. It is a 60% nickel with a density of 1, and this is the state-of-the-art catalyst. We are market lead in that segment. And I will show you on the next slide some laboratory experiments, what it can do. Our new 3364, which is the little brother of 3354, offers a low cost of fill alternative. And we put 30% less nickel in that formulation, and it's also showing a 40% lower density than that. Apologies for a slightly busy slide, but I will try and talk you through this. So this is a lab test where we are comparing our 3354 with a well-known competitor catalyst for this chemistry. And what we have been doing is we make a very small fixed bed catalyst in the lab, and we feed that with 20% butanol and butanol at 50 bars of hydrogen. The operating window we know is between 40 and 90 degrees, and we wanted to scan that operating window within a time frame of 200 hours, which means that you have to do this artificially, and we did that by taking 10-degree step at a time. By doing so, you're screening through the operating window, you look at the conversion, you look at the selectivity, And then at the very end, we're going back to the low end of the operating window to see if the catalyst was it impacted because of these temperature steps. In the graph, you can see in the top, this is the conversion, and at the bottom, it is the selectivity. The BASF catalyst is in blue and the competitor in red. And so what you can see, and we start here in the top on the left-hand side, is that 3354 is very active from 40 degrees. Competitor catalyst is out there, but you may need to start at a slightly higher temperature in order to achieve your conversion that you want to require. And then when slowly ramping up, you can obviously see that, that at high temperatures you raise the higher conversions. But what does that do to the selectivity? Well, in general, normally when you go to high temperatures, you will drop a little bit in selectivity. And you see that for both catalysts, but actually to a larger extent in the competitor catalyst. And that's mainly because of the promoters that we have in 3354. And then going back to the 50 degrees C, what we see in recovery is actually that 3354 shows a better recovery than the competitor catalyst, which means that maybe due to the selectivity losses, also some of the activity of the catalyst is gone, maybe because of the blocking of pores of some gums that are being formed. And now I would like to put the 3364 in this graph as a superposition, and it will be reflected in light blue. So to remind you, the 3364 is a catalyst now containing only half the nickel and 40% lower in density. So it means it seems to be a more lightweight catalyst. But you can immediately see that the performance is up there with 3354, and it's likely to assume that the cycle life is slightly shorter for the 3364, but it does not show any selectivity drop, and it's also very nicely recovering when going back to 50 degrees C. So it does look like a very interesting lower cost of fill alternative to 3354. Coming to the end of the second showcase, 3354 is really the market lead product for nickel-based production of oxo alcohols, particularly from rhodium-based hydroformylation chemistry. It's better and it gives a higher stable performance. It's also active at lower temperatures, which means that you have a quite long operating window, which can be estimated around 7 years. It depends a little bit on the details, how this unit is operated, whether it's very stable, whether you have too much upsets or not. But 7 years is a very realistic life cycle. We're presenting here cost of fill advantage with our new 3364, which offers you right away from the very beginning a cheaper alternative to 3354. And that could also be a strategic decision if, for instance, you cannot work with life cycles that long because you need to exchange your catalyst because of the EHS reasons for having your unit checked on the internals. And then 3364 could be a better option as well. We have a third showcase, which is actually a little bit more like a teaser. Acetone to isopropyl alcohol is not part of the oxo alcohol chain, but in our books, if you look at it from the catalyst perspective, it requires the same type of catalysts. And we've put it in here because since COVID-19, we see quite some increase in requests and demands for IPA and IPA technology. And this is our slide on that topic. So this is typically also done with nickel or copper, this conversion. So it's not aldehydes, these are ketones. And well, ballpark, what are the differences? You go for nickel catalyst. Badger is a very strong position in that market. Mitsui is an alternative. Operated slightly lower pressures compared to the copper system, 35 versus 110. Temperatures in general a little bit higher, and the LHSV could assume to be slightly higher under the copper high pressure system. And, so we have an offering for both. If you remember, the 3354 is actually our oxoaldehyde catalyst, but it turned out to work extremely well for acetone conversion. So these are some lab results that we've collected at early last year, or maybe it was still late 2019, where we have 99% plus acetone conversion at the selectivity 99.7. We don't see, and we blew the GC up in detail, did not find any diisopropyl ether lightants in those tests, and it shows very good water tolerance. So these results yielded our first commercial references in 2020 for 3354. Versalis Lummus offers copper-based technology, and in the meantime have qualified our chromium-free copper catalyst, copper 0560, and this is now offered with that technology. And I think with that I have come to the end of the presentation, and Matthias and I we are happy to receive your questions. I'll try to answer them. Thank you very much for your attention.